It's a new year, which means it's almost time for TCL's annual Bahamas Business Outlook Conference. The 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook will be held on Thursday, January 19th at 𝗪𝗧𝗧 and will bring together thought leaders across numerous sectors who will discuss the way forward in areas that have significant impact on our economy. This year's Outlook includes a panel discussion on public-private partnerships, as well as a presentation on the evolving relationship between healthcare and hospitality. Today, we'll be discussing both topics as part of the lead up to this year's conference. Keep watching. This is You and Your Money.
You and Your Money is brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas, Doctors Hospital Health System, and Central Bank of the Bahamas.
Doctors Hospital's Pharmacy introduces a new spin on prescriptions called Pick Up Now, Pay Later. That's right, you can collect your medications first and pay after. How does it work? Step 1, submit a prescription online. Step 2, select the pickup site. Step 3, collect your medication. And Step 4, pay online within 14 days. For more info, call us at 242-302-4785 or visit us at doctorshosp.com.
Welcome to You and Your Money, everyone. Among the panelists participating in the panel discussion on public-private partnerships at the 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook is Dr. Charles Diggis, President of Doctors Hospital Health System. Dr. Diggis is here solo today, but will be joined by panelists Mike Moore, the CEO and Director of Nassau Cruise Port Limited, and Crystal Rutherford Ferguson, Chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, at this year's BBO conference on January 19th. Dr. Diggis, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you explain what a public-private partnership, or PPP, is and how it works?
A PPP is a very important arrangement for those of us in the private sector because it does give us additional opportunities to do business in a formal sense with the government. And I think it's important to separate out that arrangement, which is a contractual arrangement, from a cooperation. And quite often, a lot of businesses, including us in healthcare, historically we would have and continue to cooperate with the government in terms of moments when they have needs. We may fulfill those needs under any immediate or interim arrangement. But a PPP is a more formal, contracted arrangement, which usually is the culmination of a discussion about applying the resources in the private sector to fulfill particular needs.
Why do you think a discussion on PPPs is needed at the Bahamas Business Outlook Conference this year?
In a forum where you have so many of the leading Bahamian businesses represented, I think it's only natural to, at this stage especially, engage private businesses about engaging the government and approaching the government about arrangements which would extend the application of their resources. We typically think that there is a great divide between public and private business. But if we can accept that the government's obligation may be to make sure that whatever the needs are in any sector, that those needs are met, then there are occasions, as you can imagine, where businesses, like everybody who's going to be represented at Bahamas Business Outlook, there are occasions when they have, or we have, resources, and the government representing the public has needs. And so I think this is very timely. The rate of growth post-COVID, the rate of growth of our economy is fairly significant. And on this kind of trajectory, it is not unusual for the government to not have the ability to provide certain products or services in our instance. And it's only a natural then that the private sector business leaders in an audience like BBO pay attention and prepare themselves for contractual arrangements with the government to provide services that are either essential or needed or requested by a public that the government has not otherwise made available.
Well, definitely opportunities exist and the conversation and discussion is necessary. In your assessment, what are some healthcare gaps that we have that highlight the need for PPPs within the healthcare system?
Because we are an archipelago, so many islands, so many population centers on those islands, as the needs increase, you can well imagine that it even becomes impractical for the government to attempt to provide to each population center in each island the healthcare needs, from emergency healthcare needs all through the spectrum to definitive needs of the population. And so having private healthcare partners, and this may be represented in the form of emergency transport services, ground, air, or even sea. This may also be represented with the primary care additions in terms of having private physicians as supplementary to the government's family medicine and general practice clinic provisions. Or this may be services in healthcare, specialty services, that are simply not made available by the government. And you can imagine that there would be a whole list of private services that require individuals from the family islands, from those population centers, having to come to Nassau. And the brilliant thing about creating an incentive for the private sector or for business in those family islands is that we are able to unclutter the concentration of such specialists in or on New Providence and start to distribute that care throughout the family islands. And historically, a number of these specialists would have developed a rhythm of moving throughout the family islands and the multiple population centers and providing such services every week, every 2 weeks, or every month. Well, now I think it's getting to a point where it becomes financially or economically viable for that to step up a notch, where they develop a greater or deeper commitment to providing those services in those populations. And because it's gotten to that point, then that is ripe for a formal arrangement with the government, and that's the arrangement. That's the contracted arrangement that we refer to as a public-private partnership.
Can you talk a little bit about Doctors Hospital's long-standing partnership with the public healthcare sector and the Public Hospitals Authority?
Historically, if I reference Doctors Hospital, which came out of the Rassin Hospital, and the reason why the Rassin Hospital was created was, as well as concerns about the quality of care, it was to meet the demands. It was to provide additional or supplementary resources to what was then available at the General Hospital. Fast forward then to Doctors Hospital, what would have been happening along the way would be that there would be cooperative instances where if or when specifically the needs of PMH, representing the public sector, those needs of patients were not availed by the resources of PMH, but happened to be available at either the Rassin or then the Doctors Hospital, then it was our duty, if you like, to simply make those resources available.
I think the quote that comes to mind is, when preparation meets opportunity, you're guaranteed success. So you definitely were prepared for when the opportunity came. How can business owners within the private sector better equip themselves for public-private partnership opportunities?
Well, you know, Ria, you just said it, and it is preparation. I think it's the recognition that there is an opportunity, that the needs, whether that is a need for more product or in our case more services, the needs are escalating, and in circumstances where the government is expected to meet those needs, the government is not necessarily positioned to do so. And it becomes natural for the government to turn to the private sector, almost with relief sometimes, because the private sector may be able to realize certain economies and efficiencies which makes that arrangement less costly to the government. And my clear message then to the business attendees at the Bahamas Business Outlook in a couple of weeks is recognize that there's an opportunity, one. Two, pay a lot of attention to how you define or clarify that opportunity. What exactly is the need? What's the shortcoming? And then define or outline how you are prepared, how you planned and how you positioned, and how you have the resources to provide the services on a sustained basis, because it is a serious obligation. This is not a space that you want to drop the ball. So you have to then position yourself, prepare, plan, having recognized and paid attention to what you could do, and then enter serious negotiations with the representative ministry on how you could more efficiently, more effectively, and ideally at the same or less cost to the government, provide that service. And then I think you would get a lot of interest from the government on that negotiation.
So what do you hope BBO attendees will take away from the panel discussion?
Specifically that there is a growth trajectory as the economy spurts, if you like. There are increased needs for products and services. The government is interested in engaging the private sector, and specifically in healthcare, if you happen to be in healthcare, but in the provision of whatever that need is, the government is and has demonstrated their interest. And so I think the takeaway is to take it seriously, to prepare yourself and to make a proposal that you're very serious about. It has to be a sustained type of solution so that the government is not going to be struck with your falling short. I mean, you're basically the escape valve. So you have to bring a very reliable product or service. So give it thought, but in how you plan and prepare, just make sure that you're comprehensive enough, that you're diligent enough, you approach it like any serious business decision, because it may result in a long-term sustained arrangement.
And listen, this is definitely a great conversation that we're having today. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Diggis.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Coming up next, Doctors Hospital CFO Dennis Devaux will be joining me to talk about his presentation at this year's Bahamas Business Outlook. This is You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
The Salvation Army Bahamas helps thousands of individuals and families in need. This is why your donations at Red Kettles are so important. If you don't carry cash, donate Sand Dollars, the digital version of the Bahamian dollar. Use any Sand Dollar-enabled digital wallet to scan the QR code at Salvation Army Kettles or to donate Sand Dollars remotely. For a list of providers and to learn more about the digital Bahamian dollar, visit sanddollar.bs. You are invited to the 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook on Thursday, January 19th at the Baha Mar Convention Center with keynote speaker Prime Minister the Right Honorable Philip Davis. A diverse slate of speakers from various industries will address the theme Forward, Upward, Onward Together in celebration of the nation's 50th year of independence. Register now at tclevents.com to attend. The in-person rate is $275, or you can join virtually for $200. Don't miss Bahamas Business Outlook, January 19th.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury, Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, in Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
Welcome back to You and Your Money. Today, we're highlighting upcoming sessions at this year's Bahamas Business Outlook, which will be held on January 19th. You can attend in person at Bahama or virtually. Before the break, we spoke with Dr. Charles Diggis, President of Doctors Hospital Health System. He is one of 3 panelists in the panel discussion on public-private partnerships. Joining me now is Dennis Devaux, Doctors Hospital Chief Financial Officer. He's presenting on the topic aligning healthcare and hospitality. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, Dennis, I want us to get started in wanting to find out, why is it important to include discussions on healthcare at Bahamas Business Outlook?
We think the viewing population in general, especially those outside of the Bahamas, are looking to this jurisdiction and are asking a very important question. You know, if I travel to the Bahamas, what should happen to me if I fall sick or if I need medical attention? And we want to give a tour of what Doctors Hospital is doing, not only in Nassau, but certainly in Grand Bahama, Exuma, 𝗖𝗎𝗓, and around the Bahamas, to answer that very important question for visitors to the shores. What should happen if I fall sick, and what is the role of private health care in ensuring that I'm properly taken care of?
That's a really good point to have covered. And as you know, the hospitality and tourism industry is our #1 industry. So talk to us briefly about the relationship between healthcare and hospitality. What is it and how did it come about?
That's an excellent question. The relationship between Doctors Hospital and key leaders in the hospitality industry is fundamentally about providing world-class quality care. Firstly, to guests who may be arriving to our shores, and again, looking to this jurisdiction and wanting a sense of confidence that the medical infrastructure here certainly is adequate to handle any eventuality that might present. But beyond guests arriving to the Bahamas, certainly all of the healthcare workers who stand on the front line, ensuring that they receive adequate primary care, that they're healthy and well, and that if something should happen to them, either in their workplace or outside of that, that there is an infrastructure that's able to respond to their healthcare needs so that they are healthy and well, and ultimately responding to the needs of our guests.
There's definitely nothing like having that peace of mind and that comfort that you know that you can enjoy yourself while you're on travel and being able to get that premium service. Now that the fear of COVID has subsided, is aligning healthcare with hospitality still critical?
It absolutely is still a critical part, certainly, of our strategy. And from what we hear from hospitality leaders, a critical part of their strategy as well. You know, initially during COVID, healthcare and hospitality was primarily about testing and responding to COVID infection. Now it is all about responding to emergency medical needs of guests and ensuring that staff are well. You know, during COVID, we saw a deferral of so many of the traditional primary care and preventative health care measures. Now that COVID has certainly fallen to the background, what's in the foreground now is responding to those core primary care needs: hypertension, diabetes, end-stage kidney disease, all of the things that we know continues to wreak havoc on the health and wellness of this country. And so it very much is at the forefront, from our perspective, of the strategic agenda of those in the hospitality industry. They continue to focus on responding to emergencies. What happens when someone at their property falls ill or has an accident? And then equally as important, what happens when my staff members become sick? And how do I ensure that that doesn't happen in the first place?
Where do you see the relationship between healthcare and hospitality evolving?
We see the relationship continuing to migrate to an on-site model wherever there presents critical capacity, and that typically would be in populations greater than 500 or as they approach 1,000. We see more and more hospitality players wanting to have on-site emergency response to render life-saving interventions on property, and then also to present an option for their staff members to see a doctor, to have some lab tests done, to fill a prescription without having to leave the hotel property in order to do so. So it's a very, very exciting model and a very exciting time in healthcare and hospitality coming together really to develop an envelope of care for guests and for frontline healthcare workers.
I think to sum it all up, I would think about care and convenience.
Absolutely.
What additional insights can BBO attendees expect from your presentation?
We want to talk about the future of Doctors Hospital and private healthcare in the Bahamas. You know, for a long time, Doctors Hospital strategy has been limited to providing high quality healthcare in Nassau at our main facility on Shirley Street. But the future of private healthcare, we believe, involves extending our capacity beyond Nassau into Grand Bahama, where we have already opened up a brand new clinic in 8 Mile Rock. We're opening up a new clinic in downtown Freeport, and even beyond that into the island of 𝗖𝗎𝗓𝗓, where in the first quarter of this year, we intend to open up a brand new clinic. And so it is about an extension of our private capacity to meet a national demand, which is high quality private health care as an alternative, obviously, to what is commonly available in the public sector. It's an exciting story, certainly for investors looking at Doctors Hospital as a potential option. You know, we want to talk about the narrative of our financial performance. You know, if you invested in Doctors Hospital, say 5 years ago, if you invested $10,000 in Doctors Hospital, that investment would now be, you know, 5-fold what you would have initially put in. And so it's a very exciting story of growth. It's a very exciting story of local Bahamian leadership with stewardship over certainly the country's largest and only private hospital in the Bahamas.
Well, on that note, I definitely want to commend you guys for the work that it is that you're doing and having to make such a tremendous mark on the economy. Now, the other thing that I want to find out from you is, what do you hope attendees can take away from your presentation?
We want attendees to leave with a sense of confidence in the quality of private health care in this country, knowing that beyond what is happening in the public sector to improve access and quality to health care, that Doctors Hospital is an organization on the move, that we are growing, and that the public should have increasing confidence in our ability and capacity to deliver health care at a national level. In Grand Bahama, 𝗖𝗎𝗓𝗓, 𝗪𝗓𝗓, Abaco, Long Island, anywhere where there is a critical mass of Bahamians and foreign visitors, Doctors Hospital intends to deliver high quality health care there.
Well, Dennis, we have to take a quick break, but we have more to talk about when we get back. This is You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
With the help of our authorized financial institutions, or AFIs, using sand dollars is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Step 1. Identify your preferred AFI by browsing their websites or contacting them directly. Step 2. Download the free mobile application from Google Play or the Apple Store and then register for a sand dollar account. Step 3. Load money onto your mobile app and begin sending and receiving sand dollars or purchasing and selling goods and services.
We are pleased to be
your central bank approved
digital wallet providers.
It does not matter
which of us you choose.
You can pay for goods and services
wherever sand dollar is accepted.
We are all in this together.
Visit sanddollar.bs for more information.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. Dennis Devaux, CFO of Doctors Hospital Health System, is still with us. Before the break, we were talking about his upcoming presentation at the Bahamas Business Outlook on January 19th at Bahama. Before you go, Dennis, I want you to use this opportunity to talk about Doctors Hospital's performance. It's a publicly traded company. Many people have included investing, of course, as a part of their New Year's resolution. So let's talk a little bit about how was the 2022 performance?
That's an excellent question. You know, one of the core insights that I would like to share with investors is what's happened with our top line growth. And an essential metric is what is our year-over-year growth in organic revenue. If you pull out certainly some of the one-time revenue gains that we would have had from COVID, what investors should be aware of is that Doctors Hospital's year-over-year revenue growth comparing pre-COVID to now is around 40%. Wow. Which means that there's a huge demand, we believe, for high-quality private care that the Bahamian public and our foreign visitors are willing to pay for. You know, it's something that's very, very exciting. But beyond top-line growth, you know, we're very excited that in the past fiscal year, what we would have done is made significant investments, certainly in our core infrastructure, the addition of a new electronic health record that positions us for future growth, and the expansion significantly outside of our main facility on Collins Avenue. It's no secret that Doctors Hospital has aggressively expanded beyond Nassau into Grand Bahama, but even within Nassau, on Carmichael, downtown Bay Street at the Point, on Dowswell Street, a new internal medicine practice at our facility there, a new facility in the Meldon Plaza, a flagship clinic on site at Bahamar, the continuation of our services in the residences at Albany. And so it's a very exciting story of growth, top-line growth, greater than 40% in revenue comparing to our pre-COVID levels, and then significant investments in expanded capacity and expanded delivery of healthcare at a national level.
Listen, at 40%, that's definitely some growth that investors are definitely interested in. What does 2023 look like, and what do we have on the horizon for 2024?
2023 is all about continuing to invest, but more importantly, to see the returns on those essential investments that we have had. And so we expect that as those critical investments come online, that they contribute meaningfully to our top line, and that in 2024 and beyond, that we start to look at the healthcare delivery certainly beyond the national borders of the Bahamas. What does Doctors Hospital's Pan-Caribbean strategy look like? That's a question that we certainly have to come to terms with. Who are our key strategic partners in the Caribbean and certainly at a global level? And so those are questions for 2024, but 2023 is all about realizing the returns on the critical investments in the infrastructure that we would have made in 2023, especially on the heels of fairly significant financial success as a result of COVID-19.
Dennis, this definitely was a great conversation, having to talk about the care, having to talk about convenience, having to talk about the profit growth. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, that's it for today's show. Again, Bahamas Business Outlook will be held on January 19th at Bahama. You can register on tclevents.com. For in-person attendance, tickets are $275 or $250 for 5 or more. Tickets for virtual attendance are $200. Don't forget to follow You and Your Money on social media and tune in next week for a brand new episode. I'm Ria Christina. See you next time.